Hello, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and today I'm not real sure what reel we're going to do just yet. But I'm going to show you a quick preview of what we're going to do, and then I'm going to make a decision, and that's what we're going to do. So, one of the reels that I've got is this little, I guess that's pronounced Ford, spin cast reel, and this one's in kind of rough shape. The handle does turn on it. The button doesn't push in and out. If you hold everything tight and shake it, something in there is busted loose inside. So this may end up being what Dennis Kuntz calls a tuition reel over at Second Chance Tackle. But who knows? We might tear this one apart and redo it anyway and see what we find. I know that the handle is hitting here. Something's busted loose inside. So I am a little interested in this reel to see what we can do with it, but that's one of them. Another reel that we have lined up is this Berkley 415. It's a nice small reel, but it seems to be functional. Let's see, let's tighten down the handle a little bit. There we go. Let's see if the anti-reverse works on it. It does. Anti-reverse works. The Bale flips. Drag works. Everything on this reel works. It's just really, really dirty and in need of service. That Bale's a little bit slow. So possibly we'll do this 415. It's a nice little Berkley reel. Also, I have this Zebco. This was originally the reel that I had on my list here. It was this Zebco Pro Staff PS5000 baitcaster reel. This reel is in excellent condition. It's got some rub on it a little bit here and there, but it functions beautifully. And I was thinking this was actually originally scheduled to be the reel that we were going to do today, and it still might be, but again, that's one of the reels that we're looking at doing tonight. Then I have this great big old pair of Shakespeare Alpine reels, and these things seem to function beautifully. The only reason I would service these is because the condition is unknown, and I would hate to put them out there in the world without knowing whether or not they've been serviced. The anti-reverse works on them. The Bale trips, everything seems to work just fine on them, but since I don't know if they've been serviced recently or not, and I doubt that they really have, we'll take a look at those. Maybe that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm still trying to make up my mind. Unfortunately, at this point, you guys can't give me an input. Then I've got this guy. This thing is made by South Bend, and it's called the Mr. Big Fish. And I've never seen a Mr. Big Fish reel before. And one of the things it's made in China, and one of the things that it has on it is the direct drive on and off, and I have no idea what that actually means. It's got line twisted up under it here. The button does depress. It does slowly come back if you wind it. The anti-reverse on it does work. The anti-reverse override functions. The drag, I believe, possibly works, but I don't know for sure. But I don't know what this direct drive is. I don't know. So this may be the reel that we would do, just because I don't know anything about this reel and want to know what's going on with it. Then, this happens to be one of my favorites of the night, is this great big Berkley spinning reel. It's an 829. It is a right-hand wind, and it's got issues. The anti-reverse may or may not work. The line is all trapped in around the head, so that's probably why that doesn't work. It's even wrapped around the Bale over here so that the Bale can't work. I really want to do this reel, and so that's my choices for tonight. So I guess it's really going to come down to this guy, and this guy. And which of the three am I going to pick? Oh, man. Let's go back to our childhood. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, it looks like it's going to be the big Berkley number 829 spinning reel. So let's get started on this thing. Okay, we're going to start off by trying to cut this line loose everywhere. Get this off of it. Which is always a good place to start when you're working on a fishing reel. If you can eliminate the line that's wrapped all around it, that's usually a really good place to start. And hopefully you guys don't think I went too childish on choosing a reel, but hey, you got to use some kind of scientific method, right? All right, that got rid of that. Let's zoom back in just a little bit. All right, we're going to start off by taking off the spool. And the drag washers look pretty dirty in there. This spool has one of those pipe cleaner type surrounds around it. But wow, that stuff is just so old and so rotted that it's stiff as can be, and if you run your finger along it to try to loosen it up, it all starts to flake out. So I think what I may end up doing is seeing if I can't find a new pipe cleaner to put in that. We'll see. I've never messed with one of those pipe cleaner fittings before. All right, let's go ahead and take the handle off. All right. And let's go ahead while we're thinking about it. I've got some chrome. Look, see, I've got chrome popping off of the handle here. There we go. We'll clean that up a little bit, but when chrome's gone, the chrome's gone. It's just the way it is. So let's back this off a little bit. See if it comes out all the way. No, good. It's got to stop. Okay, let's go ahead and add a little bit of oil to the threads of this so that when we tighten it back down, it can come off years from now. All right, this handle, it's kind of gritty. It's got a button in the middle for oil, so let's go ahead, push in on the button in the middle and oil it. Okay, let's spin it around a little bit. We're going to set it off to the side, and hopefully that's going to loosen up some while we sit here. All right, next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to take off this side plate. Let's go ahead and take off this side first. Let's go ahead and pull it out. Let's say it's a ball bearing reel. Oh, that's good. All right. Well, these screws are loose to begin with. That's good. Broke them loose with the common. We're going to take them out with the Phillips. And yes, I'm still recovering from COVID, so I've still got, they say I may be coughing and hacking like that for months to come. Okay, let's pull that last screw out. There comes the cover off. There's nothing on the inside of that cover to deter us. All right. At this point now, we can go ahead and remove these two screws, and what that'll do, it will allow us to pull out the axle shaft right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and break these two screws loose. Okay, there's the screw with the washer. Put those two together over here, and let's go ahead and take our axle shaft out. There we go. And that is one nasty, dirty axle shaft. My quick guesstimate on this reel is it probably hasn't been serviced in 30, 40 years. All right, we've removed that. At this point, we may be able to go ahead and take out the crosswind block, and we can. So let's go ahead and remove that. All right, now if you look on this other side over here, see the post right here? Let's go ahead and bring that up closer. All right. If you look at this post right here, I think what you're going to see is there's a collar on there. There you go. You don't want to lose that, and you don't want to crush it. So sit it over to the side. That goes along with your crosswind block. Don't lose that. Now let's go ahead and remove our washer, or sorry, our nut from the rotor. That's 14 millimeter. And I'm gonna have to get my 14 millimeter socket to get down in there. All right, I had to make a trip downstairs to get a 14 millimeter socket. Well, we've got it. Let's see which way this comes off. There we go. It does come off in a conventional fashion. Screw the nut. Got a large star washer in there. Now we've got this locking plate right here. There we go. That's going to lock the shaft to the rotor itself. And gee, we got a lot of grease down in there. Let's see if we can clean that up a little bit. All right. Now, our pinion gear has fallen straight out of the backside now. And, well, okay. Optical illusion, it looks like. Hang on just a second. It looked like the middle of the pinion gear was worn out, but it's not. That was worn down. It was grease on the sides, making it look like the middle was worn down, but it's not. So the gear's in good shape. We'll scrub it up good before we put it back together. Now we're going to go ahead and take this plate off so we can get to this ball bearing. That is a little hex head. All right, let's see if I've got something about that size. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I finally found it. It's a 13/64. And I can promise you, I don't have a nut driver. It's a 13/64. Could I have grabbed that with a pair of pliers and gotten it out of there? Probably so. Now, this cup should come out, and that brings us down to getting out our roller bearing, which I should be able to push out from the inside, and I did. All right, it's got a spacer that goes in behind it, and a roller bearing goes in the front, and this bearing is tight. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray it down and let it soak there a little bit. While all of that is soaking, we're going to come back over here. By the way, in case a lot of you may remember that I said that I was going to start taking these apart and cleaning them beforehand, and that way I'd know what I was doing when I was on screen showing you. I'd go back and just pull it apart. Well, there were some people who didn't seem to like that, and I wasn't overly crazy about it myself. So I decided not to do that. So from now on, we're going to stick with taking them apart. You get to see all the nasty, gory stuff. You get to see me make all my mistakes. Because let's face it, the art of reel repair, if you don't make mistakes, you're probably not doing something. You're playing it safe. And for most of you, you get to do that. You get to watch me take your reel apart, or one just like it, and take it apart, figure out how it goes, and put it back together. And for those of you who think I'm guessing at how this stuff goes together, I'm moving a little bit beyond the guessing phase and moving more into the intuitive learning phase. I'm getting smarter about these reels, little by little. Do I know it all? Oh my goodness, no. I still am going to be doing a lot of intuitive guesswork. So far, though, I see nothing wrong with this reel that some lubrication can't fix, except maybe for this dust shield around here, and I'm not real sure what to do about that yet. Let's go ahead and spray the top of that spool and let it be soaking. Put some down in the drag washers, flip it over, spray the bottom side. And you know what? Let's go ahead and spray that. Maybe that will loosen that up, make it pliable again, and maybe that'll start working without it disintegrating. We'll see. So I'm going to go offline while I scrub these parts, and when I come back in just a moment, you're going to see them all nice and clean. Okay, I'm back for one last thing. In the event that somebody took this apart, and I don't know why you would take it apart, except like I'm getting ready to do, to show somebody. But this is your anti-reverse override switch. And what we're going to do, we're going to push the button, push this pin out, or try to. There we go. It pushes the pin down. And the pin will come out. What holds the pin in place is that spring. Come on. Come on there, Mr. Spring. Let it go. There we go. Notice that the pin has got this hollow cut into the middle of it. Well, that is what holds it onto this button right here. Since we got it apart, we'll go ahead and clean it. But I'm going to show you in a minute how to put that back together. All right. All right. We have another piece here that was not taken apart. And we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. Again, this is another part that you have no need to take off, but in case somebody has taken apart, can't figure out how to put it back together, that's what we're going to do. And who knows, maybe you've got sand or something, saltwater corrosion down underneath there, and so you just absolutely had to take it off. Well, that's what we've done. We've taken it off. Ours was not that way, but I'm doing it so that you can see. All right. All right, we're going to take one more thing apart, and that's going to be this rotor. We're going to start off on what I believe is the non-spring side, which I believe will be this side. And we'll try to take it off first. Yeah, no spring on this side. Okay. And I don't know how many times I can say it, but I'm going to say it again. I do not recommend taking this bale apart. It's difficult for people to put it back together. This bale does need to be adjusted, though, so it's not a bad thing that I'm taking it apart. When this bale is sitting here, this should be right up against there. It shouldn't be tight up against there, but it should be up against the rotor. So we're going to adjust that in just a little bit by bending it. It's almost there. Yeah, like that. Okay. Now we're going to take apart the spring side. And again, I'm going to remind you, I don't recommend that you do this. This is only if you have a broken spring or you have a reason to have to take this off. And let's do it the easy way. Let's go ahead and take off the bale itself. That's not that one. I may not have the nut for that. 7mm. So let's go ahead and unscrew that. Remove the bale wire. And once you get this unscrewed and remove the bale wire, put this right back together so that you don't lose the parts. All right, let's finish taking this off. On this side, this is the side with the spring. All right, and it just popped the spring. All right, there we go. There is the spring, and this one is filthy dirty inside. And this one's going to be a bit of a problem to get out. It goes through the side of the case over here. So it's kind of a problem, and it may not come out. We might have to scrub it up right where it sits. Nope. It does not want to come out of there. So we're going to leave it in there. All right, let's go ahead and scrub. I'm gonna go ahead and scrub up the rest of this, and we'll come back and see about putting it together. All right, we're back with one more part that needs to be taken apart, and that's going to be this trip release right here. And I'm going to take this one apart. Again, this is one of those things I don't think you should have to do, but this one is really gritty, so we're going to go ahead and take it out. And if yours is like that, go ahead and do so. I'm going to be showing you how to put it back, or at least that's the plan. There's screw number one. You can hear that grit. There's a lot of sand in this reel. Okay. Now, be gentle as you lift this out of here because there is a spring directly underneath it. There we go. And let's take the spring out first. It's hanging. There we go. All right, now let's see if the spring will come. There we go. Okay, yeah, there's still a lot of grit down in there. Okay, so if you've had to take that out, make sure to clean out that channel real good. If you have to, if your cotton swab won't go down in there, maybe try to take part of the cotton off of it, slide it through there. Wow, yeah, very sandy. All right, once you think you've got it wiped off, don't put the spring in there yet. Try setting it back in. Actually, put it in the right way. And try seeing it if it'll move without grit. And this one won't yet, so I got more cleaning to do on this. So I'll come back when it's clean and we'll put it together. Okay, after another 10-15 minutes of scrubbing, I finally think I've got all the grit out of there. And we've got everything ready to go back together. And let's see if we can make that happen. First off, you look down in here, you'll see there's a hole. It's difficult to see. I don't know how this lighting's working. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a little hole down here that this spring fits inside. So let's start off by putting our spring back. It's a little coil spring. See there? Okay, put it back first. Okay, the spring has a tendency to want to catch on the bar, and we're going to take it back out and look at why. Okay. And there's why. All right. See this pin right here? This spring has got to fit into that pin. And I'm trying to figure out an easy way to get that to make that happen. All right, when you go to install this, this spring is going to have to fit into that pin right there. So let's go ahead, put the spring in, and what I think we're going to have to do is hold the spring down while we slide the bar in. Okay, so I'm going to try pushing down on the spring. Let's get it into position first. Like so. Then slide your trip release forward until that pin is directly over top of the spring, and release the spring. That allows the bar, the crossbar on our trip release, to fall down into that slot that it will ride in, like so. All right, let's put the screw in and see what we got. This is obviously one of those reels I probably should have practiced before we started, but we're all together with this. You and me walking through it. Okay, we've got one screw in. Before I put the other one in, I want to make sure that the bar travels. It's not going down like it should. There. The spring was getting hung on it. It wasn't allowing it to go up and down. All right. Let's put the other screw in. All right. It should allow the trip lever to free move. Let's go ahead and oil it, because it free floats on that point. And we're going to put just a little bit of grease along the side right here where it slides against the rotor, just to smooth out the action a little bit. Now there's no grit, no grind in that trip release at all. It works fine. So that brings us back to trying to put our spring side back on. Whoa, what just happened here? Okay. This hook right here is going to go into this hole. Okay, slide that in. And we're going to turn this around. We're going to put our screw in. Okay. We just want to get the screw started good. We don't want it screwed down tight. All right, that should be about enough. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to bring that back, and we got to get that tab right there to go over this. So I've tightened the screw down just a little too much. That's okay. Loosen it up just enough to get it to go past. Once you get it past it, then start putting your screw back in. Okay. Make sure everything's clear and free of the screw. And it's not currently. It wants to catch. Okay, what we're probably going to have to do is do a little tweaking of the spring. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, when we tighten this down, yeah, look at the spring. If you look at the spring, see how this is bent in right here? Okay, what's happening is when we tighten this down, that's jumping up onto the shoulder up here. And when we tighten the screw down, it's trapping inside there. So what we're going to have to do is slightly tweak this spring and get that so that it's not laying over there. All right, this is the spring. I did finally take it out, and it's warped, it's twisted. It is far tighter on one end than it is on the other. What I'm going to try to do is stretch the spring out a little bit and see if we can open the top of it up a little bit. I'm afraid that what's happening is it's riding too tight inside the bore, and therefore it's trying to force the top down too tight. And so I'm going to try to stretch it out a little bit. And somebody out there is probably saying, no, 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 don't do that. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to separate the spring out just a little bit so that it's not riding against itself so hard. And then we're going to try to uncoil the top of it just a bit. And this is a prime example of why it is I tell you guys not to take these things apart unless you absolutely have to. Okay, I wouldn't call that the best fix in the world, but I will keep an eye out for a new spring for this. It just seems as though the spring has it's just a little too tight for it, or it's gotten weak on the ends. I'm not real sure what the deal is, but every time it tries to wrap around, it folds in on itself. But the Mitchell 300 spring seems to have enough oomph. Let's find out though if it does or not. It's definitely weaker than the original. It's not bad. It's just not great. I don't believe there's enough oomph there to hold that bale down properly. So, as I have told you, do not take that apart unless you absolutely have to. All right, let's go ahead and assemble this. And I'm going to try to come back one day if I can come up with another spring for this. That's what I'm going to do. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. Let's start off right here. Put the bearing in first. Then put your ring collar in. Then we're going to install this bearing retainer. These two screws over here. And if anybody thinks this is my worst video yet, I think you might be right. Okay. All right, this is going to clip. See these two little tabs right here on the ends of this? They're going to fit into those two notches right there to hold this end in place. And let's tighten this down. And this is the one I didn't have a nut driver for, so I had to go get the little wrench. And if you're like me and you're using a wrench on this, be careful that you don't over tighten it and break it. Okay. All right, with that done, we're ready to install the pinion gear. This doesn't need hardly any grease on it because all it's got to do is slide through that bearing. And it should not spin inside the bearing. It should spin on the center bearing roller. There we go. Now, I'll tell you what, let's hold that just a minute. Before we do that, I did go ahead and take off your anti-reverse override switch. And what we're going to do, we're going to put this back on. The long side of this goes towards the handle over here, okay? If you flip it around the other way, it will still go on, but what's going to happen is when you slide it back in this position, it's going to be hanging over the edge and it's much more likely to get broken off. So make sure the long end goes towards the front. Okay, with that done, slide this clip over, and then you're going to install this pin. Sharp point of the pin goes in first. And if you need a pair of needle nose to make this happen, then do so. Okay, once that's slid in, it'll lock into place right there, and now your switch is locked. All right, now that that's done, let's go ahead and put this pinion back in. There's our pinion gear in. Let's go ahead and hit that roller bearing one more time with some oil. At this point, we're ready to slide on the rotor. And now we've got to get this rotor lined up with the axle shaft. And the piece that's going to do that is going to be this one right here. And what you'll do is you will slide it onto the keyway like that. And then you've got to line up that with this little notch right here. Slide it down. Put your star washer back on and install your nut. There's a flat side of the nut and the rounded side. You want the flat side to go down. All right, once you've got that on there, let's tighten this down. And we flip that. Bale still flips. Like I said, it's not as strong as it should be. I'm going to see what I can do about that spring. But it does trip, it does flip. Now, we're going to come back to this side and reinstall our spring assembly. And it's going to go in like this. You got a hook end over here and a flat end. The flat end is going to go towards the rear, like so. Then this is going to go on like so. And when this comes back like this, all right, that's going to put tension on it. And that's how that spring's going to ride. Let's go ahead and put the screw back in. All right, that's going to hold that over there. All right. We're going to install our main gear. We'll put oil on the shaft. And let's put a little bit down. Well, tell you what, I don't think I cleaned out that hole when I cleaned it up. Let's clean it up. Now we'll put a little oil down the sleeve. We're going to put a little bit of oil back here on the anti-reverse just to keep it from wearing metal to metal. We're going to put a little bit of grease right here on this assembly so that it can ride easily. And a larger amount of grease we're going to come back and put on this gear. And we're going to put some on the face of the gear because that's where a crosswind block is going to ride. All right, come back and install. Remember this little sleeve I told you about earlier? We're going to put that on right there. Okay, now pull the anti-reverse back, slide this in, and as this comes down, like so, our anti-reverse got to move back out of the way. There it goes. There's our anti-reverse. See it clicking? Okay, and we'll worry about how to disengage that with this when we go to put that back on. And as a matter of fact, I think we're ready to do that. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to slide this side in. Helps if you put the right side in. We're going to slide this side in right here. And this anti-reverse lever over here has to be in the right position. Okay, when we slide it, let's see, it goes behind it. There we go. I think it does. Okay, you got it in the forward position, which should be on, anti-reverse on, and in the aft position, and I pull it back, it should release the anti-reverse, like so. And that is exactly what it did. Push it back forward, and anti-reverse is back to working. So let's put the screws back in. These are the longer three. The reason being, this case is thicker. This side case is thicker than the other side. All right. Now, let's go ahead and grease up the pinion gear. Rotate. I'm going to rotate the, let's go ahead and turn off the anti-reverse for now. There. All right, we're going to take this and put it all the way to the rear. And this is where our crosswind block is going to go in. Put it back in place. And there you go. And now you can feel confident putting both screws back in. I'm getting tired, folks. But this is the danger that you encounter anytime that you go taking the bale apart on a reel. Have I give up on this one? No, I haven't. I do have that Mitchell 300 spring in there, but it's not going to stay. It's not strong enough to do the job. I think what I may end up doing is make my own new spring. But for now, that's what we've got. Okay, go ahead and rotate that around. It should rotate both ways because the anti-reverse isn't on. Turn on the anti-reverse, and now it should only go one direction. Okay. We're ready. Put the side plate on. All right. At this point, we're ready to put the handle back on. Tighten it down. Flip the bale. All right. Let's clean up the spool. Set this little spring over to the side, and let's clean this up. Okay, the spool's been cleaned, and let's go ahead and take apart the drag washer assembly. Take out the spring, take out the top washer. There's our drag washer, fabric one. There is an eared washer and a fabric washer. And this appears to be a keyed washer, like that one. Okay. And there's another fabric washer. These would go like this. And that is the end. So we're ready to put this back together. First thing we're going to do is lubricate our drag washers with some drag washer grease. Slip it in. Install the keyed washer. It's got the little keyway in the middle of it. Then we're going to install the next fabric drag washer after we lubricate it with some drag washer grease. Slip it back in. Then we're going to put in the eared washer, called that because it's got these two little ears, one on each side, and they're going to fit into these two little notches in the spool. And remember, it's got to go down. If it doesn't go down, it's not installed. Next, we're going to do our last fabric washer, like so. Slide that down in there and put in our last keyed washer. Now, you may be concerned about trying to line those keyed washers all up. When you slide them onto the reel, they're going to drop into place, so don't worry too much about that. Okay, so let's get this retainer back in. Okay, there we go. Now, as I said, let's go ahead now and put a drop of oil on our clicker, like so. Slide our spool back into place, rotate it around, and it will drop down as it lines up with the keyways. There's one of them on. There's the second one. Now, let's scrub up that last little part. All right. Drag's working. Nice and tight. Okay. And that brings us down to everything being functional on the reel except for this Bale Spring, and I've got to work on that. So hopefully I'll be coming back to you in a few minutes with the Bale Spring fixed. Okay, as some of you know, I don't give up very easily, and I did manage to get the spring reinstalled back into the bale, and I did have to work at it. I had to stretch the spring out a little bit, straighten it out one more time. This time though, instead of putting it in the way I normally put a Bale Spring in, I had to maneuver it so that this was in place to begin with, everything already stretched around before I put the screw in. I had to physically hold it in place while I put the screw in, which is not normal for how you put one of these in, but that's the only way I could get it to keep that spring from bending when I would put it in. It is done. This is a right-handed reel. Everything is back in there. Everything is functioning properly. The anti-reverse is working. It's there we go. The drag is working. The spool is tripping like it's supposed to. I'm having difficulty operating the reel because I'm not used to using one of these right-handed bales. Let's see, this would go this way. There we go. There we go. And click it back. There we go. I'm just not used to using a spinning reel set on that side. So finally, the Berkley number 829 spinning reel is complete. It's back together. It does need the line stripped away, which is what my next project is going to be on it. But at least I have the reel back up and running. I can take the Mitchell 300 spring and put it back in my parts pile over here. And this thing functions much better with that nice tight bale. There we go. And I just can't get used to operating a reel this direction. But there you go. If you like the video, I'm not sure why you would. I kind of didn't like the video, I'm sure, but it is back together, and I'm hoping that you liked it. And if you'd like to see more like this, please subscribe to my channel. And if not, that's okay. I understand entirely. For now, that's Rick Stivers of YoungMartin'sReels signing out.